Michigan, a place known for its industrial past and stunning Great Lakes. But there's another side to this state, one hidden from tourist eyes and ignored in travel guides. It's quieter, but it's urgent, troubling, and impossible to ignore. In 2025, Michigan faces a rising crisis. More and more people are losing their homes. But these aren't just statistics. These are real people facing sleepless nights, constant anxiety, and a system that can't keep up. In this episode, we'll step into the world of Michigan's homeless. You'll meet people fighting daily for basic shelter. You'll hear directly from exhausted outreach workers, overwhelmed providers, and ordinary citizens doing their best to help. What's fueling this crisis? Housing shortages, job losses, emotional struggles, and policies that just aren't enough. Picture crowded shelters bursting at the seams and sidewalks that serve as beds, where quiet courage is tested every single night. But what's happening here isn't just about Michigan. It's a snapshot of America. Long-term economic changes, housing shortages, and healthcare gaps collide in a crisis demanding immediate action. Michigan's once thriving manufacturing industry has crumbled, leaving communities devastated, struggling to survive. Today, over 13% of residents live in poverty, clearly showing just how quickly stability can vanish. On top of that, Michigan is short nearly 141,000 housing units, pushing rent sky high. Now, to afford just a basic two-bedroom apartment, you need to earn more than $23 an hour, a wage far beyond what many essential workers earn. For extremely low-income families, the situation is even worse. Less than 40 affordable homes are available for every 100 families in need. Health issues are deeply tied to this struggle. Michigan is still battling the brutal aftermath of the opioid epidemic, making things even tougher for those already facing homelessness. These challenges aren't separate. They connect in ways that hurt recovery, financial stability, and long-term survival. As of early 2025, over 8,100 people in Michigan don't have a place to live, a troubling increase from the previous year. Yes, ambitious plans are in motion, including building 115,000 new housing units by 2026. Multi-sector partnerships are forming, but numbers alone aren't enough. Real progress demands understanding the lives behind the numbers and overcoming the barriers they face. To really grasp what's happening in Michigan, we need to look deeper than statistics to the unique struggles across the state. From bustling cities to quiet rural roads, experiences vary greatly. In urban areas like Detroit, the past and present collide violently. Towering, abandoned factories cast shadows over neighborhoods where homelessness is rampant. Makeshift shelters along cracked sidewalks highlight the economic devastation reshaping communities. Local resources are overwhelmed, desperately struggling to meet growing demand. But in rural counties, the crisis looks very different, yet feels equally desperate. Recent reports show a sharp rise in homelessness across 10 counties. Here, isolation is the killer. No crowded streets, just empty stretches of roads. Services are sparse, transit is minimal, and distances between support centers are huge. Imagine carrying all your belongings for miles, completely alone, with help nowhere in sight. In both city and countryside, emotional and physical health problems are adding another brutal layer. The constant stress of homelessness, combined with rising community health issues, makes recovery incredibly tough. Public health data reveals worsening outcomes, triggering demands for stronger support systems, earlier interventions, and better healthcare access. Understanding Michigan's housing struggles in 2025 means seeing the whole grim picture. The desperate conditions in cities, the lonely struggle in rural areas, and the personal battles hiding behind each number. This isn't about simple labels or single reasons. It's about recognizing the full scope of this emergency and responding with urgency, compassion, and coordination. Michigan's housing crisis didn't happen overnight. It's the brutal consequence of decades of economic upheaval, and policy failures that left thousands vulnerable. Central to this crisis is Michigan's fallen industrial empire, particularly the automotive sector. When factories closed, middle-class jobs vanished, plunging entire towns into economic chaos. Families were left teetering on the edge, with homelessness becoming an all-too-real threat. Today, nearly 13% of Michigan residents live below the poverty line, a stark indicator of how swiftly security can disappear. Meanwhile, the gap between wages and living costs is exploding. A basic two-bedroom apartment now demands earnings of over $23 per hour, far more than most essential workers in service and retail can earn. This isn't about not working hard enough. It's about a broken system where wages don't come close to covering basic needs. A silent storm sweeps across Michigan, touching thousands of people who fight each day to keep a roof overhead. Support programs that once softened hard times are now thin and frayed after years of budget cuts, staff shortages, and stricter rules. Parents apply for help, then wait weeks for a response that too often arrives as a denial or a tiny grant that barely covers one night in a motel. When these safety nets snap, families land on cold pavement with nowhere to go. The pressure grows heavier because the state lacks almost 141,000 low-cost homes. Builders focus on luxury units, while restrictive zoning stops smaller, cheaper options from breaking ground. Investors chase profit, so rents rise month after month, pushing working parents and retirees to the edge. Fixing this mess demands more than quick patches on a leaking roof. Michigan needs bold spending that adds new homes, repairs old ones, and protects renters from sudden hikes. Community groups, towns, and state leaders must sit at one table, share data, and plan with fairness in mind. Safe shelter should never feel like a lottery ticket. Yet statistics alone cannot show the pain on the faces behind them. Every number in a report stands for a neighbor with dreams, hobbies, and a story still unfolding. Almost half of the people without steady housing across the state belong to families with kids. That means many first graders hide worry behind brave smiles as they head to school, not knowing where bedtime will happen. Parents create bedtime rituals in cars, buses, or crowded shelters, trying to mask fear with bedtime stories spoken in hushed voices. They juggle work, school pickups, and shelter curfews in a dance of survival that few outsiders ever see. Racial gaps widen the hurt. Black residents make up 14% of Michigan's population, but make up 52% of those without a home. Historic redlining, hiring discrimination, and unequal school funding built barriers that still block fair access to stable housing. The past casts a shadow that the present must confront head-on. Several groups fall into danger lines, yet stay under the radar. Veterans who once served the nation now face long wait lists for supportive housing. Youth aging out of foster care step into adulthood with no safety net, and quickly slip into couch surfing or street life. Seniors living on fixed Social Security checks see rents climb faster than their income, forcing painful choices between medication and rent. The state has launched programs that trimmed first-time and veteran homelessness, proof that smart policy can work. But for every person housed, many more remain on wait lists, showing how far we still have to travel. The core engine driving this emergency is a rental market stretched to breaking point. Vacancy rates are stuck below 5%, which means that for every 20 apartments, only one is free, and dozens of people chase at the moment it is listed. Imagine a single parent earning $15 an hour at a grocery store. Their monthly pay before tax is about $2,400. In Grand Rapids, a modest two-bedroom can cost $1,500 or more. After rent, there is barely any money left for food, gas, school supplies, or child care. One surprise bill can send the family spiraling into chaos. This strain is not rare. Across the state, 51% of renters hand over more than 30% of their pay to landlords. Since 2021, rents have jumped 36%. Housing advocates warn that Michigan needs 200,000 extra affordable units by 2030, yet building permits crawl forward at a slow pace. Without a bold shift, more families will bounce between couches, motels, and shelters, drifting farther from stability each month. This is not just a question of economics. It is a test of community values, of whether we believe everyone deserves a safe place to sleep. Children sit at the heart of this story. They deserve carefree days filled with learning and laughter, yet thousands carry adult-sized worries. Data shows that students without permanent housing switch schools at double the state average, scattering friendships and disrupting learning. Picture a third grader who arrives in a new classroom halfway through the year because the family lost their lease. They are behind on lessons, shy about speaking, and clutch a worn backpack that holds their life possessions. Only 58% of these students graduate on time, not for lack of talent, but because constant moves steal crucial study hours. Teachers witness the toll daily. Kids nodding off from restless nights on relatives' couches or arriving without breakfast because the shelter kitchen closed too early. They rarely voice their struggles, but the signs are clear. Unfinished homework, missed field trips, and deep fatigue masked behind forced smiles. The damage reaches beyond school walls. Children without steady homes face higher rates of asthma, stress disorders, and developmental delays. Simple joys like inviting a friend over are impossible when the living room is a tent or hotel lobby. They grow up learning survival skills before they master multiplication. Michigan's housing crisis is reshaping childhood and rewriting futures. Every missed homework assignment, every skipped checkup, every lost friendship traces back to the same root: the lack of a safe, affordable home. That is a problem we can solve if we choose action over silence. Health plays a huge role too. The ongoing opioid crisis, untreated mental illness, and rising hospital costs combine with housing loss in a vicious loop. Without a stable address, it is hard to keep prescriptions filled, visit doctors, or qualify for follow-up care. Emergency rooms become the default clinic, driving costs higher for everyone and leaving patients untreated. Economists warn that the state cannot grow while so many workers lack stable housing. Companies struggle to hire when employees face long commutes from distant, cheaper towns. Local shops lose customers when families spend all income on rent. Safe housing is not only a moral goal, it is the backbone of economic health. Hope still exists. Community land trusts, tiny house villages, and rental assistance pilot programs show promise. Faith groups convert vacant lots into mixed-price apartments. Unions lobby for living wage ordinances. Each success story proves that creative ideas, when backed by funding and political will, can flip the script. If we want to change the future, we have to begin with those whose future is still being shaped. To understand the full crisis of housing in Michigan, we must leave the glossy images behind and step into the real world. This journey isn't about sightseeing. It's about witnessing the quiet corners where real people are fighting to meet basic needs with dignity. We start in Detroit, where the problem is massive and hard to ignore. Here, outreach teams walk the streets offering help, connection, and hope. Shelters do their best, packed tight with people just trying to survive another day. In these moments, the strength of human spirit shows through, even in the darkest situations. Then we head to Flint, a city scarred by economic collapse, but filled with heart. Volunteers serve meals out of church kitchens, mobile vans, and basement halls. Their kindness is a lifeline for those barely hanging on. Farther north, in Marquette, the breathtaking beauty hides a deadly challenge. Harsh winters and long distances make survival even harder for people with no homes. Advocates here stretch every resource, from warming shelters to ride services, just to help people stay alive. In places like Alpena and Ionia, smaller towns show a different kind of fight. Faith groups turn community halls into makeshift shelters. Local neighbors deliver supplies door to door. These efforts may be small, but they are powerful reminders of what local care looks like. In Muskegon, new ideas are being tested. Outdoor living areas are being set up for those with nowhere else to go. It's not perfect, and it's controversial, but it shows that short-term safety and long-term housing must work together. This journey isn't about blaming anyone. It's about learning and listening. Across every part of Michigan, people are stepping up quietly, powerfully, to help their neighbors in need. When we see the helpers, we start to understand just how wide and deep this crisis really is. There's no one-size-fits-all solution to this growing emergency. All across the state, discussions are happening between leaders, providers, and people who've lived through homelessness themselves. Each voice brings a new piece to the puzzle. One idea getting attention is the Housing First model. It says, give people a home first, without conditions, and build the rest from there. States using this approach have seen fewer ER visits, better health, and people finally reconnecting with long-term goals. But the question is, can Michigan find the money and teamwork to bring this idea to life everywhere? Not just in cities, but in small towns too? Others push for solutions to fix the real root. There just aren't enough affordable homes. They call for rent rules, zoning reform, and huge investments in construction. The aim? More homes, more protection, fewer evictions. But even that raises tough questions. Can we build fast enough while keeping things fair? Still, others warn. Housing alone isn't the whole answer. We need the full package: jobs, therapy, childcare, addiction services. Without support, even the best housing plan could fall short. Across Michigan in 2025, many cities are running pilot projects. Tiny home villages give people privacy and support. Supervised camps bring sanitation and structure to those sleeping outside. Each effort teaches us what works and what might scale up. But there's a ticking clock. Much of the money fueling these programs came from pandemic-era funding, and it's running out fast. Towns face brutal choices: cut services or find new funds. Michigan stands at a fork in the road. The decisions made right now, about money, planning, and kindness, will shape the next decade of housing. And for thousands still struggling each day, those decisions mean everything. But there's another story rising quietly, one filled with kindness, resilience, and hope. These aren't big headlines. They're real people making change, one act at a time. In Ypsilanti, a barber gives free cuts to people who can't afford them. One trim brings back pride and reminds them they matter. In Jackson, a farmer donates his extra vegetables to nearby shelters. No speeches, no camera crews, just warm meals made from love. In Paskey, kids ran a lemonade stand and raised $500 for a food pantry. They're young, but their hearts are huge. In Kalamazoo, a group called Cardboard Profits, founded by someone who lived through homelessness, offers laundry, temporary shelter, and above all, belonging. And when temperatures drop in snowy Marquette, a church opens its doors. No questions, no fuss, just heat, safety, and care. Change doesn't always start in city halls. It begins in barber shops, lemonade stands, and church basements. These small acts, repeated with love, create real waves. Michigan's 2025 housing crisis is more than data. It's about humans. It's families, seniors, veterans, and young people forced to make impossible choices. We've seen the challenge: rising rents, missing homes, broken systems. But we've also seen hope in the hearts of those who still care. The road ahead demands action from lawmakers, communities, and each of us. Because a home isn't just a roof. It's safety, respect, and a chance to dream again. Thank you for watching and supporting this journey. Like, share, and subscribe to help us keep telling stories that matter. See you next time.